it's time to grab all those balls and review the Hawkeye miniseries from 1983. Tim, I'll let you do the credits since you're so good at it.
So the credits for Hawkeye 1 through 4 that came out in 1983 are writing goes to Mark Grenwald, pencils also to Mark Grenwald, inks to Brett Breeding with help from Danny Blanati, colors Bob Sharon, and letters to Joe Rosen.
All right, guys, I'll get us started on this review and take us through some of it. Yeah, a spoiler warning for some. I won't go through the whole thing and give away the ending, but
it was 83.
Going through
I'm pretty sure it passed spoiler warnings.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the story of Hawkeye, and in the beginning, he works for CTE, Cross Technological Enterprises, and yeah, he's training, he's doing, going on, and then we see that he is dating Sheila Danning, and Hawkeye is talking about he's thinking that his life, everything is going so perfect, and then one day, as he's with Sheila, oh, there's somebody breaking into CTE, and who is it? It is Mockingbird, and the two have a pretty interesting fight. Almost kind of cheesy, but interesting to see. They're rolling, and they're landing on top of each other. How most fights go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
But,
sure.
Yeah.
That's how I fight.
So he helps the security get Mockingbird. He goes back to Sheila. He tells her the story of how the swordsman trained him. And then eventually, Sheila, she's really trying to keep him there. She's really like on top of him, not to go back there. But he says, I do need to see what's going on. So he does go back. And then security turns on him. And then suddenly it looks like they have Sheila. So he gives himself up and they throw him down into like a little well thing where Mockingbird also is. And then Sheila turns around and she set him up. She's bad. She's not this nice, perfect woman that he thought she was. And he's very down.
What a twist.
And they start throwing the acid on them. And Mockingbird's like, come on, gotta fight to live. And he's just, it's for some reason it was melting his clothes, but it didn't melt anything on Mockingbird. But they make their escape. They get away. Then we got to the next issue. Hawkeye's trying to find out what's going on. And he's really down. And Mockingbird starts to tell her story of how she became a superhero, how she started to fall in love with Hazar. And then eventually she sees that he's sleeping. He fell asleep in the story. And then we have the Silencer come in his one and only appearance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Silencer goes after Hawkeye. Mockingbird helps him out. They're chasing the character. Eventually he jumps out of the window and everything to get away. And then they're on, what do we call it? A smoke tower? We'll call it a smoke tower.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he seems to throw Hawkeye in it, and Hawkeye comes back and throws him. And we can assume that Silencer fell to a very gruesome death because here we are almost 40 years later, and he's not appeared in any comics.
Yeah.
No appearance, so we can just assume his head was splattered. It was extremely violent, but we just didn't see it.
I need to tell Sal I want to get that CGC, the first appearance and only appearance.
Yes, of the Silencer.
I want to see that on my CGC.
Yeah, there's some spaces on the wall. We could, maybe we could each get a first and only appearance of Silencer. And then we get on to issue number 3, where we meet Oddball and Bombshell. And Oddball, this is why we've been talking about balls throughout the show. He throws balls, fireballs, hard balls. There was even a part. Yes, there is a part when Hawkeye says, I need to get one of his hard balls. I was like, come on. That's like one of those hard skin kind of things.
It's all Hawkeyes do.
Yeah, so
I think I figured out the name for the show.
Yeah, so Oddball and Bombshell, they're after Hawkeye and Mockingbird. They're fighting each other. And long story short, eventually they capture both Hawkeye and Mockingbird. And then the last one, we find out that Crossfire is the leader of this team, and he tells of what he's going to do and how he's going to turn all the villains against everybody. Very smart of villain to tell everything he's going to do. I do really like to spread out the page when he does tell it. Like when you see him in the middle, you see all these characters fighting. I thought it was great artwork.
Mm-hmm.
And then he gets Hawkeye and Mockingbird together, and they do their thing with the sound. So then the two have quite a fight, and that's where I'll stop and go through. If you want to know more, check out the story. It is a very good, interesting read. Hawkeye 1 through 4, the miniseries. For me, I enjoyed it. I felt like we've gone through it more than I thought I would, because obviously last week we were ready to review it and didn't, and then this week I was like, okay, let me make sure to go through it again. So I'm getting pretty familiar with this story, and I would say this last time I read it, I've been enjoying it more. The first time it does take a little bit of getting used to. If you're like me, actually, if you're like me, you can kind of get over the bit of cheesiness. Sometimes things like that, like you can understand. These are older times. This is almost 40 years ago, and then, but if you're not somebody, you might not care too much. But I still think it's a very interesting story. For me, some of the highlights, yes, Oddball made me laugh with all the ball talk, especially the part when he has the guy, and he takes a hostage, and the hostage is like laughing and says, "What is he gonna do? Juggle me to death?" Throws the ball off the guy's head, and he throws the ball off the guy's head. You see the guy bleeding. I'm like, okay, he's kind of a cheesy but a fun character. Oddball, I don't think he'd be made now, or if he was in a movie, they would probably change him.
No, we need that on Disney Plus.
I would love him to be the way he is.
6-episode show.
Yes, I would love him to be the way he is for laughs, and Mockingbird really stood out, and for me was probably the biggest highlight of this book. Yeah, because before I've known the character in a lot of Avengers stories, she's kind of in the back, right? She doesn't take the lead. For this, it really gave her a spotlight that I'd like to see, and I like her character. I'm a fan of her, definitely a bigger fan of her now. For Hawkeye, I didn't like seeing him be so down. I wanted him to be more up, I guess. Sometimes heartbreak can bring you down, but I wanted to see more of Hawkeye being a bit more confident in himself. But I do enjoy the story, and overall, I gave the Hawkeye miniseries an 8.2.
Interesting.
Tim?
Interesting. So, I got a few things to say about this.
Oh, dear God. You know this is going to be bad now.
The names of the villains were some of my favorites, and Oddball is my new favorite D-list villain. I loved him.
He's an A-lister in our heart.
From the second he was on panel, I was like, this guy's going places. I am all about Oddball. Crossfire, Bombshell, clever names, clever. As far as the book itself goes, the artwork, it was really good. I loved the detail. I loved how very clear it was. And it was nostalgic for me to see that type of artwork that you don't see a whole lot in books now. Some of the legacy artists are still around and they're still doing things, but they're fewer and far between. And it was really awesome to see that type of artwork from when I was a kid. And I really enjoyed that. The first meeting between Hawkeye and Mockingbird, absolutely wonderful. She stood right on the same pedestal as he did, even a little higher, because Clint is all down in the dumps after dating this girl for 1 month and thinking that she is the love of his life when he's been with Scarlet Witch and Black Widow and all that stuff. He's like, I'm tired of girls dumping on me. I'm just done. And so, but it was a nice rehash of the origin too. It wasn't 15 pages of origin. It was only like 1 or 2. And it was really cool. So that was nice. Hawkeye's first real solo adventure. And I love the fact that he was on the ropes through most of it. You didn't see that a lot then, and you don't see it. Well, you see it more now, but back then you really didn't, because a lot of the bigger heroes, maybe they were on the ropes for a short time, but not through most of the series. And I love the fact that it was like this, and it was really good to read. The Sky Sled is super out of place, but I absolutely love it. I want to see more of the Sky Sled, which I don't think we will, because it was destroyed. Spoiler. But a little bit of a negative, there were a lot of conveniences, especially in the trick arrows, and dust at the doors, whatever that means. I don't know. Seeing the fingerprints or the footprints in dust that has just settled. Oh, look, they've been here. They've been around. How long were they here? 10 minutes ago. Okay. It does add some charm to the book. But not much. It's 80s Marvel, so take that how you want to. It was good stuff then. It's fair stuff now. I love how they ride the subway and nobody really cares that there's two heroes sitting in costumes in the subway, and Steve
It's a normal
Rogers.
weekend.
Yeah, Steve Rogers just casually shows up. Hey, Clint, how's it going? Who's your lady friend? Oh, wonderful. Looks like you're on an assignment. Well, yeah, kind of. Well, great. Do you need help? Nope, I got it. Awesome. Let me know if you do. You know where to get me. And then
Mockingbird's like, oh, he's gorgeous.
yeah. I love the updated costume in this, going away from this a little bit and kind of trimming it up and stuff like that. I really dug that. One of my favorite parts was I loved the nod to ridiculous villain monologue that Crossfire did. He's like, now I'm going to stand before you and reveal all of my plans, as villains always do. I was cracking up as soon as I saw that. But yeah, as far as to kind of finish up my thoughts, writing did not age very well, but it does fit very well within the time period that it came out. So as far as the writing goes, I give that a very solid 6. It's well deserved, well earned. It's not bad for the time
creators after us after this one.
For the time period that it came out. It is relevant then. It doesn't read so well now. Artwork was the high point for me, and that gets a very enthusiastic 8. So an overall for Hawkeye 1 through 4 gets a solid 7.
Nice.
Yep.
So, and you guys brought up all the good points that I was going to bring up, so I'm just going to piggyback one off each of you. Sonny, I think you were hit. The cheesiness of it was like kind of the best part for me, because that's what I wanted out of most of those 80s books. You know, every time I read something, I was like, this could be a little bit better if it was like funnier or like slapstick or something like that. And that brought this to the table. Especially that part, what's he going to do? Juggle me to death? That sounds like something I would say to just a villain. Be like, what's he going to do?
Well, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. He hits me in the face. What did you just hit me in the face with a tennis ball? Like, seriously?
Let me find the right ball.
That was one of the hard balls.
Yeah. I froze that one overnight. But it wasn't, how can I put it? It wasn't overly narrative. Like, there wasn't too, like, you got the point there. It hit the point. It moved on from the point. I really do like Mockingbird in this. I thought it was one of the best parts of it. I love when they're tied up and like Glenn's like sleeping.
Yeah.
And she's like, is he out still? Yeah.
Come on, you're supposed to be an Avenger here.
Yeah. One thing, like I said, there's some things I feel like they missed in the book, like Sonny alluded to, was you got Hawkeye and his face or his face mask is melting, but Mockingbird's okay.
Oh yeah.
You know, the artwork I thought really did age well, like Tim said. And as far as like the overall story, it was great that it wasn't an origin story to me. Like, it was something that, we got a real quick synopsis of what it is, and then we move forward and give you an actual 4-issue limited series to get into this character. And they did just that for me. And that made me want to buy more Hawkeye because of that fact. So overall, with that, this one gets a 7.8 because of the fact that I would love to give it an 8, but there are just a couple things that kind of negate me from it. And I don't want to give it a 7.5 because of the fact that it doesn't belong there.
We are right around the same area. Except for me. Sonny 8.2, Jamie 7.8, and I give it a solid 7. It's a good book. It's a good 4-issue series. It's great for a start.
Yeah. Jamie, I think I was very close to giving a 7.8, but when I went over it again today, I enjoyed it even, a little more. Like, okay, I'm really getting used to this story. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, it was higher when I first bought it. When I first bought it and read it, I thought it was the best thing Hawkeye's ever done, like in a book. And I was like, this is a 9 in my eyes. And then I reread it and I was like, maybe I was being a little judgmental back then. Maybe I liked it a little too much.
Yeah, it happens though. Even to like certain books I've enjoyed like a lot more the first time, like, and then like, okay, is it really that good? And then sometimes when I read them, like pretty good, and then as I read them again, they get better.
Yeah.
Well, right on, guys. Those are some pretty solid grades. I think it's safe to say that Hawkeye 1 through 4 is a solid read.
I think it would be it definitely would be on my recommended list if someone was asking me about Hawkeye books.
Yep.
Oh,
Absolutely.
Hawkeye, yep.
Absolutely. First meeting between him and Mockingbird
Hmm.
and his existential crisis for 4 issues. Yeah.
I have those two.
And who could forget, like I said, those super villains.
Oh my
Crossfire,
Oddball.
Bombshell, and Oddball.
Best D-list villain ever.